Greetings, YouTube. It is late. We're talking past midnight Central Standard Time, so all you warrior zombies out there who are either insomniacs or waking up across the pond with your tea and biscuits, happy Sunday if that is you. I've received, I would say, at least 100 messages in the past, 8 hours from different users across the landscape regarding Alliance War, and there are certain nodes that people cannot stop talking about. And there's one in particular that I do think, and I am very guilty of this, and I fully admit it. I can overuse the word cash grab, or the phrase cash grab. It's technically two words. So let's not call this cash grab. Let's say that this is a timeout grab, which I guess sort of has the same effect about forcing you to boost up heavily and still probably timeout or just, give up. But there's this node 13. It is a node that requires you to intercept 3 times, which by itself is a lot to ask to start off a fight with a 3-minute timer. But that's maybe the easy part, because you have to do a heavy attack 6 times or 6 heavies before you can do any damage. And so there are champions like Ebony Maw that don't stun, and that most heavies don't have the range to hit. Ebony Maw was essentially made for this node. And I realized when I made my video that called Ebony Maw a cash grab that I probably should have called it something else. That was my bad. But what I was trying to say in that video this past week was that Ebony Maw clearly was created to just make people die in Alliance War. And I had a feeling, and I predicted in that video, that there were going to be some nodes that really just made Ebony almost too OP, not because the people fighting Ebony were not skilled enough, but because they didn't have the ability to actually take down that champion in 3 minutes with the BS nodes. Well, I thought I would be right, but not to the level that it turns out I am. Because let's look at this combination of nodes that poor Izzy King actually had to endure. So we have backup recovery. When brought below 50% health, the defender gains a burst of 30% power. If a reduction to ability accuracy prevents this, the defender instead recovers 25% max health. Again, things put the FU in fun. That's one of them. But is it Aegis, like Aegon, but instead of Gon, it's Gis? All right, it's Aegis Intercept 3. The defender begins with 3 indestructible charges. Intercepting the defender's attack removes 1 charge. And then Aegis Heavy. The defender begins with 6 indestructible charges. Each heavy attack strike against the defender removes 1 charge. And then the classic 150% plus attack and health. So you can see that he's pretty much screwed, right? He's lost everybody, and Ebony Maw has lost no health. This is not fun. This is not interactive. And it's just not something that I think anybody whatsoever should have to face. This is the same company that once promised us not only more transparency, which has not been the case, but most importantly that they would remove thorns. Not only did they not remove thorns, but then they brought in a new version of thorns, psychic thorns, that I have covered in a separate video. So they have proven to not hold true to their word about making Alliance War fairly competitive. I think that's really the goal for people who play at the highest levels, just to have the playing field be something that ideally, right, is determined by skill and not rage quitting. I just don't see how this node can exist, and the health of the game and the health of the contest, particularly with the highest tiers of Alliance War, how that can happen. It's not, I guess fair is a word that people will probably give some backlash on, so it's definitely not fun. It's definitely not something that can test your ability in ways that Alliance War was originally designed. I remember back in the day, just by the regular Thorns node, and it's interesting because when I first started playing Alliance War, each node was like one node, right? It wasn't 3 or 4 stacked together. It was just one. And that was tough, But you kind of said to yourself, okay, I'm going to be the person to attack Thorns, so I'm going to bring in Black Widow. And so now what Kabam has done, and we've seen this in so many different aspects of the game, from the event quests to what I'm discussing now with Alliance War to the Map 5 Hyperion boss, that now when you start that fight with the inability to gain power for 20 seconds, completely negates champions like OG Vision to at least start the fight with Synthesis, which, of course, Kabam, assuming that everybody wanted to bring OG Vision into Alliance Quest, just sold a bunch of people thousands of units and maybe hundreds of dollars worth of real money for those units for a champion that ideally could take down Hyperion despite the class disadvantage. Now, not so much. I mean, you can do it, don't get me wrong, but you can't control the power like that whole champion is intended. I think the point of getting a max Sig 200, 565 OG Vision is to control the power gain from the first second of the fight. Your goal is to gain that first bar of power, and then from there, just continue to cycle through. If you can't do that until 20 seconds in and you have to constantly dodge specials, that's just negating the whole purpose for the champion, and really the main purpose for why people were willing to spend thousands of units on that champion in the first place. I feel bad for Izzy King, but hopefully this post will not be in vain, because this node needs to be retired. This combination of nodes needs to be retired for the good of the game, for the health of the game. This cannot happen. This does not test skill. This simply tests the ability to not retire. I can't imagine going up against Ebony Maw. I don't want to. I'm getting anxiety and a fast heart rate just thinking about it secondhand from this user. But I will say thank you so much, good sir, for posting this, as this is the best way to talk about this. And I would encourage everybody to flood the forums with this level of feedback. I'm not saying that the new Alliance War map doesn't have some merit, or there aren't certain nodes that should stay, because they're challenging but also fair. But this thing, especially the combination of intercepts and heavies, is ridiculous. If you want to break them up and have the intercept be one node and the heavy be another, I think that's a good start. But I would also say, and I think this is fair, that the heavy count should be at most the same count as the intercept. The defender begins with 3 indestructible charges, not 6. And while we're at it, I keep saying this, but with all of these difficult nodes, the two things that need to happen, we need to get both potions and revives that scale for 5 and 6 star champions instead of 3 and 4 star champions. And also, there has to be a day where we get either 30-minute Alliance Quest and Alliance War timers instead of an hour, or the compromise of that, which I've covered several times in past videos, to move the max hours that you can have energy refilled from 5 to 7, which would also give you the ability to get a 7-hour night's rest, which is the recommended amount of sleep for most people, 2 full REM cycles, without knowing that during that 7 hours of sleep, you just maxed your energy for the last 2. That would go a long way, Kabam. So those are my suggestions. I want to keep this video under 10 minutes, so I'm going to end it now. If you have fought this combination of nodes, please, by all means, comment below and let me know your thoughts on it. How can this be improved? Should they stick with these nodes in the future and just separate them? Should they lower the indestructible charges for each one? I would love to hear your feedback and suggestions. My personal advice is they need to retire this. It's not why Alliance War exists. It's just to make you time out and rage quit.